Hey everyone, welcome back to Cool Stuff Etc. My name's Riley, and today we are going through all of the DVDs and Blu-rays on my shelves. These are all ones that I have seen, so everything on the shelf, with one exception, I have seen, as opposed to the last video I just posted where I went through my unwatched DVD and Blu-ray. So yeah, let's just get into it. I'll get into the organization that I use a little bit. It's kind of convoluted and doesn't make much sense to anyone other than me. So, but that's fine because it's mine. So, first off, we have our box sets up here. Oh, the glare is going to be annoying. So with that box set, we have Prometheus, and then the Alien 20th Anniversary Edition DVD, Alien Legacy box set with Aliens, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection, as well as Alien Covenant. I just want to keep this series together. And then also, as you can see here, we have True Detective Season 1, 2, and 3. These are the ones that I mentioned that I have not seen. I got these, for free from someone, so I just haven't got around to watching it. Next up, we have Bottle Rocket, Wes Anderson. Oh, I should mention, now we're going into the rest of the shelf is directors. So directors alphabetically by last name. So Anderson is first, and then chronologically how their movies were released. So Bottle Rocket is first, followed by The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, followed by Grand Budapest Hotel, which is one of my favorites of his. Then to Aronofsky with Black Swan and Mother. Following to Ari Aster with Midsommar. I also, as you might have seen, I have Hereditary, just haven't watched it yet. To John Carpenter with The Fog. Pretty cool cover, just recently got that from a thrift store. The Thing, which is a classic, one of the greatest films of all time, period. Big Trouble in Little China, which is, if you have not seen, is a very silly action comedy type kung fu movie, very, very, very good. Prince of Darkness, still Carpenter. Alice Cooper very prominently featured on the front, though he is not in the movie like that much. But and then finally for Carpenter, In the Mouth of Madness on Blu-ray. This one I need to rewatch because I watched it many years ago and really loved it. So the next is Jackie Chan. He didn't direct all of these films. But he was as much, an important part of the creative process, as the director was. So I just consider him part of the direct, if you want to call it that. Anyways, this is Drunken Master. It's just like a, comedy kung fu film, and then followed by the sequel, The Legend of Drunken Master. I bet it has a different title, in China, but in America, it's The Legend of Drunken Master. I actually watched this one first because I didn't know this existed or was even different than Legend. So, and then the Criterion Police Story 1 and 2 collection. Yeah. And then next, we go into Coen Brothers with Barton Fink. A lesser known, or lesser talked about, I should say, Coen Brothers film. I need to rewatch this. It's been a minute. I believe that it did win the Palme d'Or. Yeah, so Palme d'Or. Yeah, so it won the Palme d'Or. So I mean, hey, people did like it at the time. It just isn't as talked about as something like Fargo, for instance, or especially The Big Lebowski. Then you have Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And No Country for Old Men. Burn After Reading. When I first watched this movie, I just did not get it. Just didn't get it at all. And then upon rewatching it, I understood what they were trying to do. It was several years between watches, and I guess I started to understand it. I don't know. True Grit. Remake of an old Western. Inside Llewyn Davis. Sort of a character study of this folk singer. This is another one I need to rewatch because it's just very sad, so I just don't always want to watch something like that. Cronenberg, A History of Violence. As you can see, there's no other Cronenberg films next to it. That's because the other ones are in other places. but I still put him on the director's shelf. Guillermo del Toro with Pan's Labyrinth, which I need to rewatch. The character design, or the creature designs and stuff are really, really great. I don't need to tell you that though, obviously. And then Hellboy 1 and Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, which is the superior film. I would give away the entire MCU for another Hellboy movie like that. Oh, okay, I forgot this one's stuck together because of this sticky bullshit. Mission Impossible, Brian De Palma. And then Killing Them Softly, Andrew Dominic. Both of these movies, I have other films by these directors. I just haven't moved them over here yet because they have not been watched yet. So let's fix that, and then we'll go down here. So we have The Witch, directed by Robert Eggers. One of my favorite films of all time, undoubtedly. Although if I was to be more objective, I think The Lighthouse is the better film. I should back up a little bit. Now we're going into David Fincher with Seven and Fight Club and Zodiac. Of all of his films, this is the one that I just don't get into as much, but I still think it's pretty good. This is Alex Garland, I believe, with Ex Machina and Annihilation. I have not seen Men yet, but I really want to. I probably should get that or find out where to watch it. Next up is Mikhail Haneke with Funny Games, the US version. Really strange, artsy take on a horror film. You know, he's trying to push buttons a little bit, and he does for sure. Any movie that starts with grindcore is good in my book. And then basically the exact opposite tone and style, I mean not style, but definitely the opposite tone of Funny Games is his film Amour. Very sad, depressing film. I should rewatch that again, but just it's so sad. Now we're to Tobe Hooper, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a classic. Don't need to tell you about that one. Then Life Force, science fiction horror type movie. First time I watched it, it was quite an experience. It's a very, very weird film, about some sort of, I shouldn't say because I don't want to spoil it, but you should watch this movie if you have not. It's very weird, very good. Alejandro Iñárritu with Birdman, or The Expected Virtue of Ignorance. This one Best Picture, of course, and it was widely loved upon its release, I think, but I have not seen it since. And then The Revenant was sort of the follow-up. Again, a very different vibe from Birdman, but still a pretty good movie. Maybe a little bit too long, but I need to give that one a rewatch too. Peter Jackson's The Frighteners with this disgusting case that I will try and replace soon. A horror comedy with Michael J. Fox as a guy who can see ghosts, essentially. Pretty funny, pretty weird, but I don't know. The most interesting anecdote about this movie is that he directed that right before he went on to do the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which, again, very big tonal shift. And so, I mean, there's Fellowship and Two Towers. Return of the King is in the other video where I have not watched it yet. So, moving on to Spike Jonze with Adaptation. I need to rewatch this one as well because I just totally didn't get it when I first watched it. It's a very strange meta film where the writer, Charlie Kaufman, is the character in the movie, and he also has a brother who's both played by Nicolas Cage, and they're fake versions of, I don't know, it's very strange, but yeah, I need to watch it again. And then another Spike Jonze film, Her. Again, people love this movie, so don't need to talk much about it, but good movie. Moving down to the next shelf, we have Satoshi Kon, Perfect Blue, great psychological horror, and Paprika, dreamlike presentation and lots of weird stuff going on. It's a movie about dreams, so that makes sense. Didn't like it as much as Perfect Blue, but still quite good. Enter the Kubrick, Lolita. This is sort of Relative to his other work, this is sort of an odd one. To me, it's more like a stage play type thing. You know, it's an older movie, so it doesn't look quite like his other films that you might be familiar with. But I thought it was still pretty good. And then Doctor Strangelove, kind of the same thing for the most part, but this is a much better movie than Lolita in my opinion. And it's pretty funny. I need to rewatch it because George C. Scott is in this movie, and since watching this, I've come to love him quite a bit. So I want to go back and see how he is in this movie. 2001: A Space Odyssey, a classic, of course. Clockwork Orange, a classic. The Shining, a classic, and Full Metal Jacket. You know, it's Kubrick, so what do you want? I'm realizing now that it seems like I planned getting all the same edition. I didn't. These are just the ones I found, so it just worked out that way. It looks nice on the shelf though. And obviously I'm still missing like Eyes Wide Shut and some of his earlier films too, but you know, that's not like top my list or anything. The Lobster, we're into Yorgos Lanthimos. The Lobster, I really love this film. I know some people are put off by his style, which is fine. I understand it's quite polarizing. You know, it didn't make sense to me on my first viewing either, even though I did enjoy the film. But, you know, as you watch it more and more and you watch more of his films, hi, honey cat, you start to understand, I think, a little bit more about his intention. And I think Killing of the Sacred Deer is even more, it makes more sense with the kind of directing that he does. So these are both very different films too. So the Richard Linklater School of Rock. This is a very, very nostalgic film. It's a good comfort film for me. I love School of Rock. I love Jack Black, of course. And the only other Linklater film that I have also stars Jack Black, which is Bernie. I don't know how well known this movie is, but I think this movie is great. I think you should give it a watch. Jack Black is great as Bernie. It's a crazy kind of true story that really happened. So, and he kind of melds documentary style with, you know, scripted sequences that are more film-like. So, yeah, just a really interesting movie. Richard Linklater is an interesting director that I need to see more from. In Bruges, Martin McDonagh. This movie is quite funny, very, very dark comedy though, very dry humor. But I think it's great. The ending is wild. I need to rewatch this, and I need to see more of his movies. I have a couple on the other shelf, or at least I think I have one. But yeah, I need some more from him. Audition, Takashi Miike. Classic horror. I don't want to show much of it because I don't want to spoil it, because you should just go watch it. Ichi the Killer, just talked about this in my most vile films list. It still is. And it remains to be one of the most vile films I've ever seen. Disgusting, depraved, disturbing, all the D words you can think of. David Robert Mitchell, It Follows. It Follows was one of the movies that got me into horror when I was younger. You know, I used to really be afraid of scary movies, and now it's like primarily what I watch. But yeah, this movie, I mean, it still holds up, and can't go wrong with a movie that takes place in Michigan. So, Under the Silver Lake, I think this is better than It Follows. This is a near perfect film in my opinion. Just a great mystery. Andrew Garfield's wonderful in it. It's just very weird, and you know, keeps you interested. And then finally for this shelf, Bowling for Columbine by Michael Moore. Pretty important documentary from my understanding, and dealing with touchy subject matter, especially in America. So give it a watch. There are some moments that some people might want to turn away, because it gets pretty graphic. Ugh. I'm gonna sit down for this because my legs are hurting. Okay, next shelf. Park Chan-wook with Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. Again, one of my favorite films. It used to be Old Boy, and then I watched this, and it, in my opinion, surpassed it a little bit. But I mean, Old Boy is still a classic. It's still basically perfect. Sam Raimi, we have Evil Dead 2, which is the best of the bunch, and Army of Darkness, which I wasn't as crazy about, but it has value still, of course. It's still, you know, people put a lot of work into that movie, put a lot of love into that movie. It just sometimes shows its age. Then we're going into Scorsese with Raging Bull. A classic Scorsese film, of course. Then into Goodfellas. Another classic. And then The Departed, which, I mean, I feel less inclined to talk about Scorsese because he is who he is. You know him, obviously. Then we have Blade Runner here, and that pretty cool edition with, you know, like lots of different discs and having lots of different cuts of the film. This is a Ridley Scott movie, obviously, and the rest of them are up there with the Alien movies and Prometheus, so this is by itself for now, until maybe I get, like, Thelma and Louise or something. Tarantino, have a lot of his films. Reservoir Dogs. I'm going to go through these quickly because Tarantino. Pulp Fiction, Collector's Edition, DVD. Kill Bill. Volume 2 is behind. Why is it there? There's Volume 1. And Volume 2 should obviously be behind that. Inglourious Bastards. Django Unchained. And Hateful Eight. There you go. On to Gus Van Sant. Good Will Hunting. Good cry movie. If you want to cry, watch that movie. And then Elephant, which is pretty experimental considering if you've seen Good Will Hunting and the style of this movie, the way that the narrative unfolds and how really the narrative doesn't unfold in a traditional structure. Very dark subject matter about a school shooting, so it's kind of a depressing film, but it is an experience. It's an audio-visual experience, and I think that's what it meant to be more so than telling a story from start to finish. Okay, get over here. Go into a right spot. Thank you. All right, moving down one more time. And we have another shelf a little bit below this too, but we'll get to that in a second. This is all going to fall over. So, Paul Verhoeven with RoboCop, and Total Recall, and Starship Troopers. Paul Verhoeven is a director that I have very recently come to love. I mean, all three of these movies are like incredible films in my opinion. I need to see more of his movies, but other than Showgirls, I don't know what else he's directed off the top of my head. But I mean, yeah, he has a good sensibility. He makes some good movies, I think. And then we'll go into Denis Villeneuve with Enemy. If you've not seen this, it's a very good movie. It's a, you know, psychological thriller type thing, and then the ending is gonna like confuse you. Prisoners, just recently watched this for the first time. Good movie. Good mystery thriller. Again, he likes, you know, he does his thrillers and stuff. Pretty good. Oops, sticky. Sicario. Haven't seen this in a while, so I don't have much to say. And then Blade Runner 2049. Okay, this is all getting fucked up. Blade Runner 2049. Yeah, a pretty good standalone film. I don't know about it as a follow-up to the original, but I should rewatch it pretty soon and see if my opinions change or anything. And then finally for the directors, Edgar Wright with a W. It's not out of order. Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, probably two of the best comedies of all time. Let's see if those stand up. They don't, so we'll do this. All right, and then moving down one more time, because the one below it is empty. This is all the anime, not all the anime, obviously Perfect Blue is up there, but that's separate because it's Satoshi Kon. So yeah, all the anime films that I own. So real quickly, it starts out with all the Ghibli films in chronological order. Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind, which I love. Kiki's Delivery Service, which is, you know, comfy, cozy vibes, but not crazy about it. Spirited Away, which is a classic for most young American people of my age. They probably watch that movie, and probably Howl's Moving Castle, a bunch. And then Tales from Earthsea is a new one that I have recently viewed, and it's quite slow, but it's a cool fantasy story. It made me want to read the Earthsea novels a little bit. And yeah, like Kiki's Delivery Service, it has really comfy vibes, like pastoral, vibes. Like it's kind of a medieval fantasy, but they really lean into like the peasantry side of things. And I don't know, like people live in a little thatch hut farming. So I don't know, it's a good movie. Akira, insane film. Definitely watch it. It's a classic for a reason. Cowboy Bebop, the complete series, one of the best anime of all time. Don't need to tell you about that. The Devilman complete OVA series. and by that they mean the 2 OVAs that were put out. Very violent, very silly, especially if you watch the English dub. So, I mean, I would recommend the English dub. It kind of just adds to it, but yeah, just a very violent time. Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell. Great dystopian kind of cyberpunky film. You know, it's a spy movie type thing. So, right there. Good movie. Inspired The Matrix, from what I understand. Neon Genesis Evangelion, the complete series, and End of Evangelion on the same disc. I mean, this is probably my favorite anime of all time. It's basically flawless. Ninja Scroll, much like Devilman, very violent, very of its time. Yeah, you know, pretty good though. Pretty entertaining. The animation's nice. Vampire Hunter D. You know, it's been a minute since I've seen this, so I don't remember much about it. But I've read the novel that this is based on too, and that was okay. I think I prefer the anime to the novel, but still have good memories of this. I probably should rewatch it and see how I feel. And then finally, Wicked City, which is very graphic, not just violence, but also other proclivities. So watch that at your own discretion. But it is quite a nice looking film. All right, we're gonna stand back up. We're going to the top here. Okay, here's all the criterions. They are organized by spine release. So starting with 2 Seven Samurai. This is the back of Seven Samurai. I mean, I bought this because it was on sale. I had a little bit of trepidation because it's such an old film and it's so long, but man, it really it really holds up. It's a classic for a reason. Silence of the Lambs, one of the best sort of crime thriller with like horror elements ever made. The book is also great. Oops. Last Temptation of Christ by Scorsese. Very odd film from him, but you know, it's still great. Very controversial. Royal Tenenbaums, Wes Anderson film, pretty good. Throne of Blood, another Kurosawa film. Another kind of samurai era film from him. It's an adaptation of Macbeth, I believe, or Hamlet, one of the two. I can't remember. And you could, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but it's more of a stage play on film, but it's still really good. Videodrome. Here's some more Cronenberg. Probably one of my favorites of his. It's very weird about you know, how TV and violence and sex and all that stuff fucks with you. Antichrist, disgusting film. Being John Malkovich, very weird. Comedy, and I guess kind of a drama too. But yeah, funny movie. Repo Man, I keep having to do this because the way I have them put in. Supposed to be a satire, dark comedy of the Reagan era. I think it maybe went over my head a little bit because I don't live in the Reagan era, but was still an enjoyable sort of weird sci-fi film. Scanners, not my favorite Cronenberg film, but it, you know, still pretty good. Thin Blue Line, very good documentary. In like the way they recreate the actions and the way they tell the story and stuff is just, see, from what I understand, it's pretty revolutionary. And of course, this movie did get a man exonerated, so that's pretty important too. Moonrise Kingdom, probably my favorite Wes Anderson movie, almost purely for nostalgia. I mean, it is a well-directed film and everything, but probably just because it was the first one I watched, it just really stands out to me. Damn it. Mulholland Drive, David Lynch, very weird, dreamlike movie. The scene with the dumpster probably scarred me for life. Blood Simple, Joel and Ethan Coen's first film, and actually one of my favorites, which was very weird. It's very much not like their other movies. They wear their influences on their sleeve. Very Carpenter and very Raimi, in my opinion, was what I could detect. But I mean, it's an incredible kind of neo-noir thriller, so I would give that a shot if you have not seen it. Then Stalker, kind of a sci-fi, maybe dystopian, artsy movie by Tarkovsky. Not going to be for everybody, but I mean, it is beautifully shot, very emotional filmmaking. Would definitely recommend it. Next up we have, oops, oh no, Come and See, Elem Klimov. I mean, this could have gone on my disturbing movies list as well, but this is disturbing in more of an emotional way. Just like it's one of the most harrowing movies you're probably ever going to see in terms of the intensity of the action happening. God damn it. Parasite. Don't need to talk about that. Good movie. Crash. Another Cronenberg movie. One of my favorites of his. Probably Videodrome and this are tied. Very strange subject matter. This was also on my most vile films list. Memories of Murder. Bong Joon-ho. Yeah, I mean, watching it for the first time, it was really well directed and everything. It was a beautiful movie, and the acting, I mean, was great, and all the stuff was there. It just didn't hit me. And then I kind of took some time to let it stew and watched some videos on YouTube about it, and yeah, then it kind of made more sense, and I want to give it another watch. And this is the most recent release from Criterion and the most recent purchase that I have from them, Cure by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. Just a very, very, I don't even know I can't put it in words. It's just a great movie. So interesting. Very little dialogue, in my opinion, relative to other films. It just kind of tells the story in a very subtle way. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't put into words how I feel about that movie, to be honest. All right, next moving into, this is horror films alphabetically. We're almost done. We only have a few more shelves, but I'm going to try and go quick. Altered States, just watched this for the first time recently and really, really enjoyed it. Very weird movie. It is funny to me, thinking back, this guy going through altered states. He turns into a monkey, and then the next step from monkey is a being of unknowable power. There's one step of evolution between those two things. American Psycho, it's a classic. It's supposed to be a satire on the businessman types that were living in New York at the time. American Werewolf in London, good horror comedy. The Blob remake from 1988. One of the movies that you might see the cover of and you might not think much of it, but actually it's quite a good film. A lot of the effects hold up. Some of them definitely don't. But it just kind of feels like a Spielberg movie, but a lot more violent. Blood for Dracula by Paul Morrissey. I know the director is probably the kind of movie this is, and the kind of person the director is are so incongruous to me, because he seems like such a stick in the mud, and then this movie is so weird and sexual and gay, but I don't know, it's just very interesting. Candyman is a classic. It really is quite good. Still holds up. The story, if you don't know the story of the movie, it's not your typical slasher. There's gonna be some twists and turns that are quite shocking. I was very surprised. Cello, I believe Korean horror film. Wasn't incredible, but as I said in the other video, I try and collect a lot of these Tartan Asia Extreme movies, so I picked it up because I was pretty cheap, again at Big Lots for some reason. And yeah, it was all right. The ending was, they tried to do one of those mind-bending things, but The Changeling with George C. Scott, phenomenal haunted house movie. George C. Scott's incredible, of course. Color Out of Space, Nicolas Cage is in this adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft, and they do quite a good job. Yeah, I mean, it's the colors you see on the cover are very prominent in the movie, and so maybe sensorily it's maybe a little too much, but it's still pretty good. Day of the Dead is one of the best zombie movies I've ever seen. It's incredible. It probably is a little corny to most people, which is fine, but I think it's wonderful. Donnie Darko, one of my favorite movies. Used to be my favorite of all time. I watched it for the first time in middle school, and was kind of just blown away by the scope of it, how confusing it was, all the weird stuff that was going on. It was probably one of my first introductions into really weird movies. So, Event Horizon. I don't. Some people consider this a hidden gem, a lost classic, and Even I think even if they included a lot of the stuff that was cut, I think this movie is just probably okay. But the ideas, like the movie on its the merit of its ideas is like great, but the execution I think is what maybe holds it back. But I want to give it a rewatch and see. The Evil Dead remake, I think this is like an incredible remake. They, paid a lot of respect to the original while totally doing their own thing. I think it's incredible. Exorcist 3, quite possibly my favorite movie of all time. George C. Scott again, just amazing movie. Fright Night, good horror comedy from the 80s about vampires. Another vampire film, From Dusk Till Dawn, also great. Robert Rodriguez directs it, and Quentin Tarantino is in it, and I believe wrote it as well. Gretel and Hansel, we picked this up, Katrina and I, and we just wanted to watch a horror movie, and we turned it on, and I wasn't like expecting much from it, but it's actually a very well shot, weird kind of psychedelic movie about a witch. So I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I want to give it a rewatch. Halloween 2, not a great movie. The original Halloween is a classic for a reason. This movie's all right. It's an okay sequel, but it's not Halloween. And then we have the Halloween remake from, I believe, 2018. I actually like this movie quite a bit, to be honest. I was expecting a lot less from it, and I enjoyed it. All right, moving down, I'm going to sit on my ass and hold this camera up a little high. Okay, we're almost done. Only 4 more shelves, I don't know. Hellraiser, it is amazing. Still, I need to get the second one because it's also great. The Innkeepers, another kind of haunted house movie. I believe directed by Ty West. Yeah. Who did X and Pearl more recently. It's a really slow movie, I think. But I think it's effective in its horror. So I would give it a watch if you've not seen it. Interview with the Vampire, technically not a horror film, but deals with sort of horror. Vampires are horror staples, so I don't know, I put it here. Good movie. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, very weird premise to a movie, in my opinion, but executed well. What's the guy's name? Donald Sutherland, he's great. Jeff Goldblum's also in it. It, the remake, from I believe 2016 or 17. This movie was great, and then part 2 was such a letdown. Jeepers Creepers 2, the director is obviously an asshole. This movie's just alright. Let the Right One In, phenomenal vampire movie. Very, very slow burn, but lots of crazy scenes, weird stuff happening. Just good. Maribito, as it says here, is the director of The Grudge, who I can't think of the name of. Also a very weird movie. This guy goes into the tunnels under Japan and finds this weird kind of semi-virtual world, and then finds this girl trapped there, and then takes her home, and I don't even know. But give it a watch. It's very weird. Murders, talked about this not too recently, so I won't talk about it here, but again, if you have not seen it, watch it. The Omen, the original with Gregory Peck. I think this holds up well. This is a movie that I watched when I was younger and really freaked me out, and then rewatching it, I was like, damn, they take a long time to get into the plot of this movie. The first 45 minutes is just setting up that how many times do you need to show weird shit happening before you can confirm that he is the devil, obviously. Phantasm 1 and 2, both great, weird sci-fi horror amalgamations. I'm gonna switch hands here because my right hand's getting tired. Possession, I keep saying weird, but I don't know, I feel that a lot of these movies are weird. Probably the most divorced man making a movie of all time. Psycho, the original, by Hitchcock. Just recently rewatched this, and it is a classic for a reason. Very well directed, a little slow at certain points. Not totally up to my speed, but pretty good. Not pretty good. It's a classic for a reason. Pumpkinhead. This movie gave me a lot more than I was expecting. It was promising a lot. It was quite emotional at the first half hour, and then it kind of, whatever. But the effects are great. And I think that it still holds up pretty good if you've not seen it. Reanimator. I forgot how gross this movie was. I showed it to my friends at the Halloween party last year, and luckily not many of them were there because something the scene at the end with the head, yeah, they weren't expecting that, and I also forgot that was in there, so apologies. Wreck, found footage zombie movie, probably one of the best found footage movies that exist currently, and yeah, just a great film. Don't let the fact that it's in Spanish turn you away. It's great. Okay. The Ring, Arrow Video release. I mean, The Ring is a classic for a reason. I think the American remake is pretty good, but I don't think I prefer it to this one, the original. Salem's Lot miniseries, also directed by Tobe Hooper. Maybe I should put that over by Tobe Hooper's actually, but for now it's here. And it's it's a miniseries, so it's like 3 hours long. It's pretty good. It was enjoyable. I watched it in 2 sittings. So, Slither, good horror comedy by James Gunn. The effects really hold up in my opinion. They put a lot of work into this movie. I think that it's quite good. Tremors, basically perfect comedy horror monster movie. It's actually wonderful, surprisingly. And then What We Do in the Shadows, kind of a faux documentary about vampires. Very funny. Technically not a horror film, but I threw it here because it's horror adjacent. So, all right, down to these. So the rest of what we're talking about is just the other movies that are not horror films, organized alphabetically. So this is all I have left. We'll go really quick. 12 Monkeys, sci-fi, kind of time travel-y, weird movie. Apocalypse Now by Coppola. I guess I technically have Godfather, and I should put it on the other shelf, but for now it's going to be here. Borat, My Wife, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and Bogus Journey. These movies are very nostalgic. I love them both. Very silly fun. Capote, did a project on this movie in high school, on the book In Cold Blood in high school. We had to watch a movie that was related to the book in some way, and I mean, this is the story of how he wrote that book. I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman is great, as always. It's a good movie. Children of Men by Alfonso Cuarón. I mean, the directing in this is just insane. The story itself is a really cool kind of sci-fi dystopian thing about people. Children haven't been born for many, many years, and then suddenly there is one. So, yeah, just an interesting concept. Chinatown by Polanski, who is kind of a scumbag. But this is a pretty good movie. Die Hard, classic action movie. Oh shit! God damn it! Okay. District 9. Just rewatched this the other day, and I was blown away by how good it is. Another kind of partially found footagey, but I mean, wow! It was great. The effects really hold up for the most part, and I was surprised to see that. Documentary Now, seasons 1 and 2. I love Bill Hader. I love Fred Armisen, and this is them parodying classic documentaries, and so they're funny on their own, but then they also introduce you to great movies, and so that's why I love this series. Yeah, I need to watch the 4th season because it's on Netflix now. Eternal Sunshine. I mean, everyone and their mother loves that movie, so I won't talk about it more. Fargo season 1. This is a great show. I need to get the other seasons, and I need to rewatch them because I mean, just phenomenal. It's so perfectly Fargo. Like, they did such a great job. Oh, Neil Breen, Fateful Findings. I'm not a connoisseur necessarily of so bad it's good cinema, but Neil Breen is the pinnacle of that, in my opinion. This movie, I've probably seen this movie 12 times, and I think I'm maybe one of the only people in existence to understand its brilliance on a cosmic level. Heathers, love this movie, one of my favorites too. I have also probably seen this about 5 or 6 times in like 5 years, so which for me is a lot. So good, yeah, dark comedy about high school life and being young and all that stuff. Get back in there. High Fidelity, movie about music. I need to rewatch this because I don't remember much from it, but I remember liking it. Jaws. It's fucking Jaws. Joker, we live in a society, of course. Better than people give it credit for, I think, and much worse than other people give it credit for. Karate Kid, also a classic. Knives Out. A surprisingly polarizing film. People on Letterboxd have some strong opinions about this movie. I think it's great. And I think Glass Onion's pretty good, too. Kong Skull Island with the little... It doesn't really move. I don't know, it's kind of 3D-ish, I guess. Also surprisingly good. I wish that the other Godzilla films were as good as this was. But I'll still go see them in theaters when they come out, because now I'm kind of invested in that. LA Confidential, neo-noir type movie. Pretty good. Lady Bird, love this movie. So good. Sorry, I got the thing on there. Yeah, I mean, just knocked me on my ass, honestly. Logan, one of the best superhero films probably ever, and one of the only ones that I own, because I don't, bless you, I don't care to own other superhero films, really, but this is a great movie. Mad Max Fury Road. Great action, really wonderfully shot. The colors really stand out. Like it's a movie that's trying to go for a lot of style. I haven't seen any of the other Mad Max films, which is silly of me, but I will watch them eventually. Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. This used to be one of my favorite movies too, and I haven't seen it in a while. I wonder if it will still hold up, but it's a very fun premise. Memento, probably the only Nolan film that I will ever own. I'm not a huge Nolan fan, but this is a good movie. I think it's his first like feature film. You know, one of those movies with a good twist if you don't know what's coming. Moon, good sci-fi, very slow, but the premise is like the idea behind the script is great and is well executed. Sam Rockwell is wonderful. Nacho Libre, one of the greatest films ever made, and then it's not a joke. I love this movie to death. Nightcrawler with Jake Gyllenhaal, phenomenal movie. The director also directed that Velvet Buzzsaw movie on Netflix, which was just abysmal, like such an awful film. But this movie is amazing. Nocturnal Animals, also starring Jake Gyllenhaal, and then Amy Adams. Great movie. I think this is the director of Under the Skin too. Tom Ford, is that right? I don't know. I'm probably wrong about that. But anyways, great movie. Very interesting premise as well. Princess Bride, classic for a reason. What can you say? The Raid Redemption. I showed The Raid 2 in the Unwatched movies. I haven't seen this in a long time, but I really want to rewatch it again. The Room, another classic so bad it's good. It comes with a postcard to get some underwear from Tommy Wiseau. Shin Godzilla, a great Godzilla film. But I mean, if you're going into it expecting what you've come to expect from Godzilla, I think you might be disappointed, but I think it's great. Sixth Sense. M. Night Shyamalan. Oh, I'm bad at making sure it's in shot. I'm sorry. Sixth Sense is a classic, good twist, for whatever. Snowpiercer. Good movie. Another interesting idea of all the last of humanity's population on this big ass train, and a scathing indictment of capitalism, as the kids say. Sweeney Todd is next. Demon Barber of Fleet Street. The music's great in that. Synecdoche, New York is a wonderful film. Very, very heady. Like, it's a very thinky movie. So if you don't want to do some thinking, don't want to, experience weird shit happening, then I would stay away. But it's really good. Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny. This movie is also quite a good nostalgic movie. Not from my teen years, but more from my early 20s. So I'm only 25 or 26 years old, so it's not that much different. Terminator 2 is sticky a little bit, so I had to get it out. Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Great movie. Haven't seen Terminator 1. Tombstone. One of the only Westerns I have. Also great. Different than you'd expect, actually, which is kind of interesting. And then last but not least, West Side Story. Great musical. What else is there to say? That's it, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. Yeah, have a good one. Don't forget to do the stuff that you do. Do the stuff on YouTube that you do. So, all right. See you in the next one. Bye. I said bye.